Hey guys, it's Sam with Spieler Custom Baits. Today we're going to be making a crappie jig. We're going to start off with this 1/16 ounce jig head. Get it in my vise here. I've cut the collar off of this just to make it a little bit easier to tie the jig. We're going to start off with just putting a little bit of adhesive on the hook shank just so that our thread has something to attach to. I'm using an orange 120 or 200 denier thread on this one. We're going to take it all the way down the hook shank to that point, and we're going to work that thread all the way back up to the jig head. And we're going to cut off that tag end. Today we're going to be using two different types of marabou. We're going to be starting off with a chartreuse, and we're going to be taking the full feather, lining it up so that the end ends up being our tail off of that hook. We want a pretty full tail off this bottom part, and at the same time we want to make sure that we're trimming up and plucking out anything that's not going to be even on that tail piece. Once we have that trimmed up and situated, we're just going to lay that down across the hook shank and off the end of the hook where we believe we want it. We're going to do a couple wraps towards the head, making sure that that marabou feather is lined up where we want it. And then we're going to take that thread and wrap it all the way down the shank of that hook, really locking that into position. And then we're going to take some scissors and cut off that excess as close as we can to the head of the jig. And then we're going to take our thread, wrap it all the way back up and around the head of the jig area just for a little bit of cleanup. Now we're going to be taking a little bit of orange marabou next. We're going to trim that up. We're going to measure it out. I want it halfway down where the chartreuse feather is. And once we have that trimmed down and lined up, we're going to go ahead and make a couple wraps towards the head of the jig, and then we're going to wrap that in all the way down. Once we have that situated, we're going to do the same as we did with the chartreuse. We're going to clip off that little bit of extra, and we're going to take our thread, wrap it up to the top, and we're just going to clean that area up. Now once we have the tail of the jig completed, we're going to be taking a worm chenille. I've matched it with a chartreuse worm chenille. And we're going to take that and we're actually going to tie it all the way from the head of the jig all the way down. This is just to give the body a little bit more substance to it. And then we're going to take our chenille and we're going to make nice even wraps to create that body of the jig. Alright, now that we have it all the way up through the collar, we're going to take our thread and we're going to wrap it around that chenille twice. And we're going to take it back and we're really going to lock it in by wrapping it on the other side a couple of times. And we're going to go ahead and do that one more time. This just really locks in that worm chenille and makes sure that it doesn't move around or slip on us. We're going to cut off. And then we're going to go ahead and clean up and wrap up that collar area of the jig. We're going to pull down on our bobbin to create a little bit of extra thread, and we're going to go ahead and whip finish this jig. And I do all of mine twice. And once we have that in and nice and secured, we're going to go ahead and take our scissors and we're going to clip off our thread. Now to finish this jig, we're going to take a needle, or you can use a poke, or some people I've seen use toothpicks, and we're just going to add a little bit of adhesive around that collar of the jig just to make sure that that thread doesn't slip. I use loon hardhead. And then once we have that, that's our finished jig. See if we can't get a couple good shots of this. And we're going to go ahead and place it in the light box. Again, thank you guys for watching.